Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Tom stood quietly inside the small shuttle, looking out of the window. The planet Valora shone like a green jewel below him. It was his first time on another world, and his hands felt a little shaky. He wasn't a brave space explorer or a famous captain, he was just Tom, a simple technician from Earth. His job was to fix things, machines, lights, and small engines. But when the chance came to join a peaceful trade mission to Valora, Tom said yes. He wanted to see new places and meet new people. Now, he wasn't so sure. The shuttle landed softly in a bright, open field. Valora was even more beautiful up close. The sky was light purple, and two suns hung low in the sky. There were tall trees with blue leaves and strange flowers that sang quietly in the warm wind. Tom took a deep breath, the air smelled sweet, like honey in fresh rain. "Welcome to Valora," a soft voice said. Tom turned and saw a group of Valaran people waiting for them. They were tall and graceful with shining eyes and long silver hair. Their clothes floated around them like water. They smiled kindly, and Tom relaxed a little. The group from Earth walked together toward the Valarans. Tom followed quietly at the back. He didn't like big meetings, he was hoping to stay unnoticed and just enjoy the view. After the welcome was over, he wandered away to explore a little on his own. He found a quiet path that led to a beautiful garden. There was no one else around, and it was peaceful. Soft music came from somewhere, maybe from the plants themselves. Tom smiled, he liked this place. As he walked, he saw a strange plant in the middle of the garden. It was tall with glowing blue petals that moved slowly, as if breathing. It looked soft and inviting. Tom reached out and gently touched one of the petals. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. "Stop," a voice said softly but firmly. Tom quickly pulled his hand away and turned around. A Valaran woman stood there watching him. She was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. Her long silver hair shone in the light, and her bright green eyes looked calm but serious. She wore a long robe that seemed to float around her. "You touched the heart flower," she said quietly. Tom didn't know what to say. "Yes, I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know. It just looked nice." The woman stepped closer. Her face was gentle now. She tilted her head and studied him for a moment, then she spoke softly. "You are my husband now." Tom stared at her, confused. He thought he heard her wrong. "What?" he asked. "You touched the heart flower," she repeated. "That means you chose me as your life partner." Tom's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. No, I think there's a mistake," he said quickly. "I didn't know. I was just looking around. I didn't mean to." "It doesn't matter," the woman said kindly. "Valaran law is clear. The heart flower chooses true bonds. You touched it, and it accepted you. Now you are my husband." Tom took a step back. He wasn't afraid, but he was very, very confused. He looked around, hoping someone would explain what was happening, but they were alone in the garden. Only the soft sound of the singing flowers filled the air. "I'm Tom," he said slowly. "Tom from Earth." "I am Mira," she said, "and now we are bonded." Tom tried to think fast. Maybe this was a dream, or a joke, but Mira didn't seem like someone who joked. Mira stepped closer again. "You don't need to be afraid," she said. "I will take care of you." "I don't need taking care of," Tom replied, but his voice was weak. His heart was racing, and his mind was spinning. Mira smiled gently. "Come with me," she said. "We will tell the council. They will be happy." Tom followed her because he didn't know what else to do. His legs felt wobbly. He had come to Valora for a simple job. Now he was walking beside an alien woman who said he was her husband, and he still didn't understand how it happened. Tom walked beside Mira, still feeling very confused. The garden path was soft under his feet, and the flowers sang quietly as they passed. The air was warm, but Tom felt a little cold inside. He kept thinking about what Mira had said, "You are my husband now." How could that be? He had only touched a flower. Back on Earth, no one got married by accident. There were talks, meetings, choices. But here on Valora, it seemed one small mistake had changed his whole life. Mira walked calmly beside him. She didn't seem worried at all. Her long silver hair floated behind her, and her green eyes looked peaceful. Tom wondered if she even understood how strange this was for him. "Mira," Tom said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I think there's been some mistake." Mira turned her head slightly. "What mistake?" "I didn't know about the heart flower," Tom said. "I didn't know what it meant. Where I come from, we don't get married by touching a plant." Mira gave him a kind smile. "I understand, Tom from Earth, but the heart flower knows. It only blooms for two souls who are meant to be joined. You touched it, and it accepted you. That is our way." Tom ran his fingers through his hair. "But what if I didn't mean to? What if I wasn't ready?" Mira stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Her eyes softened. "It is not about being ready," she said. "It is about being true." Tom sighed. "This is all happening so fast." Mira gave a small nod. "It often does." They continued walking and soon reached a large building made of shining white stone. It had tall windows and smooth walls that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Tom guessed this was some kind of important place. Inside, the air was cool and smelled like flowers. The floors were soft under his boots. Mira led him into a round room where 5 Valorans sat in a circle. They all had calm faces and bright eyes. One of them smiled warmly as Mira and Tom entered. "This is Tom," Mira said clearly. "He is my chosen." Tom gave a small, awkward wave. "Hello." The council members looked at him with interest but not unkindly. One of them, an older man with silver markings on his skin, spoke first. "Welcome, Tom from Earth. We are pleased that you and Mira have formed a bond." Tom opened his mouth, then closed it again. What could he say? He didn't want to be rude. He didn't want to upset anyone. He took a breath and tried to explain. "Thank you," he said slowly. "But I'm a little confused. On Earth, marriage is different. We talk about it first. We choose together. I didn't know I was choosing." The council listened carefully. Then a woman with shining golden eyes spoke. "The heart flower chooses with wisdom. You may not have known, but your heart did." Tom wasn't sure how to argue with that. Mira placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Do not fear. You are not trapped." That made Tom relax just a little. "I'm not." Mira shook her head gently. "Marriage on Valora is about respect and partnership. We walk together as equals. If you wish to leave, you may, but I hope you will stay." Tom looked at her face. She was serious but kind. There was no force in her words, no pressure, just hope. "I don't know what to do," Tom admitted. "That is normal," Mira said. "For now, you will come to my home. You will learn about our ways. We will share time together, and then you may choose." Tom let out a long breath. That sounded fair. He nodded slowly. The council smiled, clearly pleased. One of them handed Mira a small crystal that glowed softly. Mira took it and placed it into a pocket on her robe. "It is done," the council leader said. "May your bond bring light." Tom wasn't sure what to think about that, but Mira turned to him with a gentle smile. "Come, Tom. You must be tired. Tom followed her out of the council hall. His legs still felt wobbly, but his mind was a little calmer now. He wasn't married forever yet. He had time to think, time to understand. As they walked back into the sunlight, Mira said quietly, "My home is in the sky." Tom blinked. In the sky? Mira nodded. You will see. Tom wasn't sure what that meant, but he figured he was about to find out, and he wasn't sure if he was ready. But maybe he was curious enough to try. Tom followed Mira along a quiet path. He was still thinking about everything the council had said. His mind was full of questions, but he didn't know where to start. Mira didn't rush him. She walked beside him in silence, as if she understood he needed time. After a short walk, they stopped in front of a round platform floating a few feet above the ground. Mira stepped onto it and looked back at Tom. "This will take us to my home," she said softly. Tom looked at the platform. It didn't have any buttons or controls. He stepped onto it carefully, hoping he wouldn't fall off. As soon as both of them stood still, the platform rose into the air, slowly, smoothly. It floated higher and higher. Tom's eyes widened as they passed over tall trees and silver rivers. The view was beautiful. In the distance, he saw floating houses hanging in the sky like clouds. They glowed softly, as if they were made of light. "Is that where we're going?" Tom asked. Mira nodded. "That one there," she said, pointing to a round house with wide windows and a garden growing on its roof. As they got closer, Tom saw birds flying around the house. Some birds had long tails that sparkled in the sun. Others sang soft songs as they flew past. The platform stopped gently in front of a wide doorway. Mira stepped inside first. Tom followed, still feeling unsure but curious. The inside of Mira's house was simple but beautiful. The walls were smooth and white. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling, and the air smelled like flowers. There were cushions on the floor and low tables with small glowing stones on them. Mira smiled. "Welcome to your new home." Tom gave a small nod. "It's nice," he said honestly. "Very peaceful." Mira led him to a cushion and motioned for him to sit. Then she sat across from him. "We will begin your husband training now," she said. Tom blinked. "Husband training?" Mira gave a small laugh. "Yes. You must learn our ways, so you will feel at home here." Tom wasn't sure if he was ready for that, but he nodded. "Okay. What do I do first?" Mira stood and walked over to a small table. She picked up a round fruit and brought it back to him. "First, we share food," she said. "It is our way to show trust." Tom took the fruit. It was smooth and warm in his hands. He took a bite. The taste was sweet and cool, like a mix of honey and mint. He smiled. "That's really good." Mira nodded. "I am glad." After they ate, Mira showed him how to greet a Valerian family member. "You touch your hand to your heart," she said, showing him the motion, "and then offer your hand, palm up. It shows you have no secrets." Tom practiced the greeting a few times. Mira watched and corrected him gently. Her voice was soft and patient. Tom found he liked learning from her. She never rushed him or made him feel foolish. Later, Mira led him outside to a small garden that floated next to the house. "This is where we walk together," she said. "It is called the Bond Walk." Tom followed her along the garden path. They walked slowly, side by side. Flowers opened as they passed, and soft lights floated in the air around them. As they walked, Tom felt something strange but peaceful. It was like Mira's thoughts were close to his, though she didn't speak. He felt calm, as if they were sharing the same quiet space. After a while, Mira stopped. "You did well," she said. "The Bond Walk is important. It helps us understand each other. Tom nodded. I think I understand a little. Mira smiled at him. That is enough for now. They returned to the house, and Mira showed him where he would sleep. His room was simple, with soft cushions and a wide window that showed the stars. You can rest here, she said. Tomorrow we will learn more. Tom sat on the cushion and looked out at the sky. Everything was different here, strange but also peaceful. He still didn't know if he was really ready to be someone's husband, but Mira was kind. She gave him space to think and time to learn. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. As he lay down, he heard Mira's voice from the other room. Good night, Tom. He smiled to himself. Good night, Mira, he replied, and for the first time since arriving on Valora, he felt calm. Tom woke up to soft light coming through the window. At first, he forgot where he was, but then he saw the floating garden outside and remembered everything, the heart flower, the council, Mira calling him her husband. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. It still felt like a strange dream, but he knew it was real. There was a gentle knock on his door. Tom, Mira's soft voice called. Are you awake? Yes, Tom answered. I'll be right there. He stood, straightened his clothes, and took a deep breath. Then he stepped out of his room. Mira stood waiting, dressed in a flowing robe of soft blue. Her silver hair glowed in the morning light. Did you sleep well? She asked kindly. Yes, Tom said. Thank you. It was very quiet here. Mira smiled. Quiet brings peace. She gestured toward the low table by the window. Come, we will eat morning food. Tom sat on a cushion, and Mira placed a small plate in front of him. There were fruits of different colors and shapes, soft bread, and a warm drink that smelled sweet. Tom tasted the drink first. It was smooth and calming, like warm milk with a touch of honey. This is good, Tom said. Mira smiled. It is called Alina. It helps clear the mind. After they finished eating, Mira stood. Today we visit the learning hall, she said. There are things you should know about our world. Tom followed her to the floating platform again. As they rose into the sky, Tom looked around. The floating houses and gardens were peaceful and quiet. Birds flew by, singing soft songs. It all felt very different from Earth. There were no loud noises, no machines, no busy streets. Everything moved slowly here. The learning hall was a round building made of white stone, floating high above the clouds. Inside, it was cool and quiet. Mira led Tom to a wide window where they could see the stars. This is where we study the paths of life, Mira said. We learn how all things are connected. Tom nodded. On Earth, we study science and math. Mira smiled gently. Here, we study harmony. A soft light filled the room, and shapes appeared in the air. They looked like stars, lines, and moving pictures. Mira touched one of them, and it became a glowing map of Valora. You should know our lands, she said. This is where I was born. She pointed to a place near a silver river. Tom listened as she told him stories about her childhood. She had played in the singing gardens and flown with bright birds. She had studied at the learning hall since she was young. After some time, Mira led him to another room. There was a small pool in the middle with clear water. Around the pool were stones shaped like seats. This is the place of questions, Mira explained. You can ask anything here. Tom sat on one of the stones. He had many questions, but he didn't know which one to ask first. Finally, he said, why did the heart flower choose me? Mira looked at him for a long moment, then she sat beside him. The heart flower sees the truth in hearts, even if you do not see it yet. Your heart was open and kind. The flower knew. Tom thought about that. He had never thought of himself as special. He just fixed things and tried to be helpful. But I'm not anyone important, he said. Mira shook her head gently. Kindness is always important. Her words made Tom feel warm inside. Maybe there was something more to this than he understood. Later, they walked back to Mira's home. She showed him how to tend to the floating garden. The plants responded to his touch, glowing softly as he cared for them. You have a gentle hand, Mira said. Tom smiled. I'm good with machines, but plants are new for me. They are alive, just like machines, Mira said softly. They answer to care and patience. As the sun set, the sky turned a deep purple. Tom and Mira sat together by the window. Small lights floated around them like tiny stars. You are learning well, Mira said. Tom nodded slowly. Thank you for being patient. Mira smiled. It is the way of a true bond. Tom didn't know what the future would bring, but for the first time, he felt like he belonged here, even if it was still strange. And as he looked at Mira, he wondered if maybe being her husband wasn't such a strange idea after all. The days passed quietly in Mira's floating home. Tom found himself falling into a peaceful rhythm. Each morning, he woke up early and joined Mira at the small table by the window. They shared meals together, talked about Valeran life, and sometimes just sat in silence, watching the clouds float past. At first, Tom had felt like a guest, but now he was starting to feel more like he belonged here. Mira was kind and patient, and she smiled often when he spoke. He liked the sound of her laugh, soft and musical, like the wind chimes his grandmother had in her garden back on Earth. One morning after breakfast, Mira stood up and said, "Today we visit the sharing circle." Tom looked at her curiously. "What's the sharing circle?" "It is where we tell stories from our hearts," Mira said. "It is a way to share truth and learn about each other." Tom wasn't sure he was ready to share anything deep, but he nodded. "Okay, I'll try." They rode the floating platform again, this time going higher than before. The sharing circle floated above the clouds, and it was open to the sky. Soft cushions were placed in a circle on the floor, and about a dozen Valerans were already there when Tom and Mira arrived. Everyone greeted them with smiles and nods. Tom gave the greeting Mira had taught him, hand to heart, then palm up. It felt less strange now, more natural. Mira sat beside him on a cushion, and a gentle melody played in the air. One by one, the Valerans shared stories about their lives. Some talked about their childhood, others spoke about lessons they had learned. Their voices were soft, and their words simple, but Tom felt the deep meaning behind each story. Then it was his turn. He took a deep breath. On Earth, he began, I was a mechanic. I fixed broken things, machines, engines, tools. I worked alone most of the time. It was quiet work, but I liked it. I never thought much about marriage or being with someone. Mira listened quietly, her eyes warm. Tom continued. Then I came here. Everything is different. I didn't understand at first. I thought I had made a mistake with the heart flower. He glanced at Mira. But now I think maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe I was meant to be here. Mira's smile grew a little brighter, and Tom felt a sense of relief. The other Valerans nodded in understanding. After the sharing circle ended, one of the elders approached Tom. She handed him a small stone that glowed faintly. You spoke truthfully, she said. This stone will help you find your place. Tom looked at the stone in his hand. It was smooth and warm. Thank you, he said. On the way back to Mira's home, Tom asked her, what does this stone do? It shows your path, Mira explained. When you are unsure, hold it close. It will guide you. That night, Tom stood by his window, looking out at the stars. He held the stone in his hand and closed his eyes. He didn't see a clear path, but he felt calm, as if something inside him was quietly leading the way. The next morning, Mira met him with a bright smile. "Come with me," she said. "I have something to show you." They walked to the garden where Tom had helped plant new flowers the week before. To his surprise, the flowers had bloomed overnight. They glowed softly, their petals opening toward him as if greeting an old friend. "They respond to you," Mira said gently. "They feel your care." Tom knelt beside the flowers and touched one gently. "I never thought I was good at growing things," he said. "You are," Mira replied. "You bring life where you walk." Her words made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, pride. Not the kind of pride that made him feel big or important, but the kind that made his heart warm. That evening, Mira prepared a special meal. The fruits were sweeter, and the bread was soft and warm. They sat close together by the window, watching the stars. "Tom," Mira said softly, "do you still feel confused about being my husband?" Tom thought about it for a moment. "I don't think I'm confused anymore," he said honestly. "I'm still learning, but I think I like being here. I like learning with you." Mira smiled, her eyes shining. "And I like sharing this life with you." As the stars brightened in the sky, Tom realized something had changed inside him. He wasn't just visiting anymore, he was becoming part of this world, and maybe part of Mira's life too. One bright morning, Tom woke up to the sound of soft bells. He rubbed his eyes and stepped out of his room. Mira stood waiting for him, dressed in a silver robe that sparkled like the stars. "Good morning," she greeted him warmly. "Morning," Tom replied, smiling. "Why are the bells ringing?" Mira's silver eyes shone. "Today is special. It is the Festival of Lights." "Festival of Lights?" Tom repeated, curious.